Morning. Hey, just gonna review a little bit kind of what we were talking about yesterday when it came to investing, and I did bring up the Roth, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I think the limit now that you can put in a Roth is $6,500 a year. Okay, which is really good. I mean, if you're fortunate enough to be able to save that much in a year and get it into a Roth, and you're setting yourself up really well. Okay, so I mean, I would say you would want to probably get to somewhere, at a minimum $2,000 a year, maybe $2,500 a year, starting at the age of 22. If you do that every year, if getting between 6 and 8, maybe 10 or 12% return on your investment, you should have over $1 million when you retire. Okay, which is good. Now we're going to have inflation. At some point, it's going to bite us. We're having it right now, but we've been printing so much money in this country the last decade or so. I don't know if it's ever going to come up and really hit us hard or not. So there's certain things you can do when we get inflation to hedge against inflation. A lot of people say, well, buy gold, because gold always retains its value, right? Problem is, if the crap hits the fan, can you eat that gold? You can't survive on it. You know what I mean? So really the best hedge against inflation is probably farmland. Okay, or real estate. You know what I mean? I win. Yeah. Right? You have a farm family?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm market every Saturday.
Okay. I'll probably have some questions for you a little bit later on. I mean, because, I try and talk to smart people, and ask them questions, because you always hear advertised on the radio about buying gold and silver and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's not a bad investment, but you can't eat it. But you might be able to get somebody with food that's willing to trade you for gold, if the crap hits the fan, right? All right, speaking of crap hitting the fan here, so guys, that's just your basics. When you get that first job, go meet a financial advisor, get started on retirement savings and so forth, so you're not reliant on Social Security for your subsistence when you get older. I mean, hopefully it's there for everybody. But there's no guarantee, So, and you're not going to get enough from Social Security to really live comfortably and maybe do the things you want to do in retirement, like travel, give back, give to charity. I mean, if you do really well on this, you can give a lot of money to people, in need, and to the church, charities, and so forth. And it's really nice to be able to do that. If you budget things well and prepare well. So, all right. So what happens here, guys, is on what we call Black Thursday. It's the 24th of October, 1929. And remember how I went through the Boeing stock with you yesterday? You get the bad news about the 737 MAX, and people try to sell it, and nobody's buying it, right? Well, guys, the market was overpriced. Stocks were way overpriced. People began to realize this, and it just kind of spun out of control. Everybody started trying to sell. So about noon on that day, J.P. Morgan and a consortium of other wealthy bankers in New York started buying up stock. They pulled together $240 million, which is a lot of money back then, to try and stop the panic. And it worked. I mean, because if you were trying to sell your stock and nobody was buying, the price kept falling, and then all of a sudden, all this money enters into the market and starts buying these stocks, then it's kind of like, oh, okay. I might have lost some money, but I got out. You know what I mean? Then Hoover goes on the radio and tries to assure the nation that, hey, the economy's on solid footing. There's no reason to worry. There's no reason to panic. What do people do when you tell them not to panic? Okay, so by Tuesday the next week, on the 29th, the panic really set in. these bankers had really leveraged a lot of money to do this, and now the stock that they own is starting to fall, and they've overcommitted. So we did see a rebound temporarily, but then it starts to crash. Now, when we think crash, we think, okay, it went to the floor. It did not go to the floor. Okay, so the top 50 stocks dropped about an average of 50% that day, which is massive. Okay, so any profits you had made in the previous year are gone, probably plus more than that. But the market had been going up and up and up. Okay, and people trying to get rich quick. Okay, not looking at the actual conditions of the economy. As I told you yesterday, by 1927, we started to see the slowdown in certain areas. And people were, hey, everything's going to be fine, right? Just keep buying stock. And so just to kind of show you this, this over here is a ticker tape machine. Okay, I don't know if you remember the video. They showed Charles Lindbergh. They had a ticker tape parade for him in New York. So this thing would print the stock quotes out. It's the ticker, okay? This was behind. By noon that morning, it was an hour behind. It could not keep up with all the trading, all the sales of stock. So that, after a day, that stuff, that paper's just, it's trash, So they would cut it up into pieces, and during a parade, throw ticker tape out the windows of the skyscrapers for the parade. That's where ticker tape parade comes from. Okay. Only happens in New York. Okay. Okay, so if we look at this graph, if my slide will switch. Okay. So you can see the stock market from 1927 going in here to 29, seeing the massive increases here. And so it kind of showed people were like still buying and buying. And so this is Black Thursday. You see the drop, pretty dramatic, and then it rebounds a little bit. And then that's Black Tuesday. Okay. There were good days. It went back up a little bit after that, and then down and up and down, up and down, up, and then it's slow about mid-1932. Okay, so it did not crash totally. Now let me give you a couple examples of some major American stocks. Like General Motors was selling for like $84 a share in September 29. By 1932, it had dropped to $4 a share, from 84 to 4. Montgomery Ward, which was like the first Sears or J.C. Penney, their stock was selling for $108 a share. It fell to $8 a share eventually. Okay, so U.S. Steel, all these big companies that people own, a lot of people had their life savings tied up in. Now, if you would have bought General Motors at $4 a share at its low and held on to that for 80 years, you'd be doing pretty good for yourself. Okay. It made itself back, it worked its way back, and so did everything else eventually, at least the companies that stayed open. Now, for you young investors, the first time you take that $2,000 and you put it in the market, and you're optimistic, you think you're going to make some money in the market, and things go well, price starts going up, you're excited, you're thrilled, and you're like, I'm a pretty good investor. I'm good at this. And then it starts to go down. A little bit anxious. This isn't really happening, right? I'm not going to lose money, am I? And then, yes, you're back. There's some fear, some desperation. You're like, oh my gosh. Then you just give into it. You capitulate, you're despondent, depressed, and it starts to come back up. You're hopeful, believe, good, let's go, let's make some more money. Okay, this is why I don't watch the market every day. You watch the market every day, guys. When you're doing this, you're investing for when you're 60 years old or 62 or whatever. There's no reason to watch it every day. Okay, you just put the money in there. Hopefully the U.S. economy will continue to grow like it did over the last, 90 years or so, and be all right. Even if we have big hiccups like 9/11 or the housing crisis in 2008, we can overcome those, hopefully. You know what I mean? So put it in there, hope for the best, okay? Every now and then you'll, like every 6 months, get with your broker or your financial advisor, look at your stuff and, reallocate things to, into different types of funds and so forth, okay? All right, this is the scene outside the New York Stock Exchange on that day, on the 29th, as people were awaiting news of what was going on inside the stock exchange. It was pretty crazy. I mean, everybody was on the edge of their seats. And, it scared a lot of people. And that's pretty much what I got to at second hour. So today, what we're going to do the rest of the time, unless you have any questions about that. Yeah.
So nothing actually happened to make it fall. People just got really scared and started like trying to
Sell off.
stuff.
Yeah, huge sell off. And there weren't enough buyers because the majority of people were selling to get out of the market, trying to save their profits. And they lost them because nobody was buying.
What if they had all just like kept their stocks? It wouldn't have.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the value of the stocks would have fallen as the economy failed. You know what I mean? Because remember, it's only worth what somebody's willing to pay you. So if you weren't trying to sell those stocks, right, they would still lose value. You know what I mean? The market price of a stock is what somebody paid for today. You know what it's selling for today. And if it's not selling, period, like nobody sold their stock, well, somebody's going to buy tomorrow, right? What are they going to buy it for? So say you wait a week, you don't sell it, then you try and sell your stock, and nobody's buying it at that price that you bought it at.
Right.
That's what it's worth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, now today we have the market has built in, if it drops, and I forget the exact percentage, I think if it drops like 5% in one day, the markets will shut down and reopen the next day, like to stop a major sell-off. They'll just close the market, okay, to try and stop a panic. But there were some times in there, I remember where there were like 1,200 point shifts in a day. Go down 1,200 points the next day, come back up 800, down another 1,000. And then, those are pretty big swings. I mean, usually with the New York Stock Exchange, you might see, 250 point moves. That's the Dow Jones Industrial. That's like a combination of all the major stocks going up or down. So it's a Dow Jones index of funds. Let me just show you. Oh, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Okay, so this is today. Not a good day, looks like. No, it's only down 0.8 or 8 points, so it's down less than 1% for the day. Okay, this is today's trading. So it went up a little bit, now it's down a little bit. Okay, so let's look at 1 month. Okay, so are we at 35,000? What does that mean? That's high. So let me do 5 years for you. Okay. Okay, so this is going back. So Trump's elected in 2016 through 2020. This is COVID, right? Yes. And then you see it kind of build back. Bubble. Yeah. But that didn't take long. You know what I mean? It came back pretty quick. Yeah.
What is the 35,000 mean? And what is that number? That's how much
It's an industrial average of the major stocks in the Dow Jones New York Stock Exchange, in the New York Stock Exchange. Okay, so other funds would be NASDAQ, which it's a market. So there's 4 major markets. Okay, there's Standard & Poor's, the Dow Jones or New York Stock Exchange. You've got NASDAQ, and then you've got like Chicago Mercantile, which deals with like farm goods and farm animals, right? Pigs, hogs, beef, all that. And so, like in Kansas, if you listen to AM radio, you'll get all the updates every day on how much a bushel of wheat is selling for, how much a hog, steers and stuff like that, how much they're selling for. So, obviously cattle ranchers want the price of the cow to go up. Because when they sell those cows, they have no money. And that's the Chicago Mercantile, isn't it? Yeah.
Grandpa would be like, oh, wheat's up 5 cents.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Anytime those commodities go up, it's good for Kansas, for sure. Okay. Is that just making so historically? Okay, look at this one back here. Okay, as far as when I was growing up, they didn't use dollars and cents for these numbers. They used it was points, and it was weird. And it was like the early 90s, they switched over to a penny is a penny, 100 pennies makes $1, and that's how we read those, okay? So down here, you can see the expansion of the market. This is 1934, this is 2016. Okay, so over time, the New York Stock Exchange has grown, value has grown that much, which is, around 12% interest growth. It's grown, okay? So if you take all the companies that sell stock, right, and you add together the values of those, that's where you're getting this, values of their stock, the prices of their stock.
So 35,000 is how much one stock is worth?
All the stocks. The average of all the stocks.
Yeah.
So if Boeing the value of the Boeing stock is selling higher today, that will help affect this average. Yeah.
Okay, so how does the 35,000 correspond with like actual dollars of money? Like, is it
right? You would have to multiply the 35,000 times the number of stocks issued from all those companies, which would be trillions.
Okay.
Right? This is like each stock. So you add Amazon in here, you add Boeing, you add Walmart, Microsoft, all those in there. What the value of their stock is. Okay. And the most expensive stock you can buy is what?
Apple? Warren Buffett's
Berkshire Hathaway, which I think you need over $100,000 to buy one share.
Why haven't they split?
Splitting is awesome.
Yeah.
So if you own a stock that's worth $80, okay, and the company decides to split that stock, that means they're going to double the number of shares. So they're going to send you 2 shares for every share you have. Now the price is going to go from 80 to 40, but every penny it goes up, it's going up 2 pennies for you because now you own double the stock. Ooh, stock splits are great. My wife used to work for Dow Chemical in Louisiana, and so they offered her, if you work for a corporation that's publicly traded, a lot of times they'll offer their employees what's called revenue sharing, or allow you to buy that company's stock that you work for a cheaper price than people that don't work for the company. So like say your company stock's selling for $80 a share on the market, they sell it to you for $60. Okay, as soon as you buy that stock, you just made 20 cents on every share. Or $20 on every share. Okay? So I would watch Dow Chemical, when my wife owned it. I'm like, okay, she got the stock. It wasn't a fund, it's actual stock. And it split. And I'm like, honey, she made some money today. Okay. So yeah, it's a complicated system. but it's not rocket science, okay? You just gotta study a little bit, and again, I have let the professionals handle this for me. I'm like, I get a broker, and I like the large brokerage firms, because there's a lot of government regulation over them. You're not gonna get scammed by these large brokerage firms, generally, okay? If you go with the mom and pop shop, you know what I mean, like Stocks R Us on North Ridge Road, okay, and you pull in there and there's like one guy in there, you're gonna give him your money? You better be careful about that. And you guys hear about Bernie Madoff? No, heard that name before? Bernie Madoff was like the broker for the rich and famous. And so you had a lot of famous people, wealthy people that would give this guy their money to invest. He said, I will make you millions, okay? Well, he was taking the money that people were giving him and living this lavish lifestyle, and then basically sending them fraudulent updates on their accounts about how much they were growing. And that's all they had to go off of. You know what I mean? They were trusting this guy. And then the whole thing came caving in on him. He's in prison for life. He swindled hundreds of millions of dollars from people. Okay? I had a kid that played on my son Jack's baseball team. His dad was a financial advisor. Had his own company. Got 5 years in prison, okay, for defrauding people. He stole like $1 million from his father. Yeah. I did white collar prison up in North Dakota. Okay. 11 months. Okay. Maybe you should have. Yeah.
Is it white collar prison?
Yeah. Financial crimes, not violent crimes. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more. Okay. All right. So our historical literature passion project. Okay. I'm going to hand these out. Those of you that are at home, I did post this. You guys can ignore this on Canvas since you're here. Okay. Yeah, and we're gonna change the dates on this. I'm sorry, I made copies of it before I ready to hand it out. We're gonna change the dates. Yep, okay. So, change the dates. You ready? Part 1. Choosing a topic, right, September 9th. Cross out August 17th, September 9th, that's today. Okay. Step 2, research and topic choice. You got a week. Okay. You're gonna get going on this, all right? And then step 3, choose a president. So September 16th, replace August 24th, September 16th. And then step 3, change to October 7th from November 15th. October 7th. Okay, and then the project will be due October 19th. Okay. Now, today I'm going to show you a video that's about 15 minutes long over the 20th century. It's pretty good. Okay, a couple things to remember. This has to be American history. Now, if you see the Spanish Civil War on here, 1936 to 39, I don't know if you know this, but there was a regiment of Americans that went over there and fought against the fascists. They were called the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. That's American history. Spanish Civil War is not American history. Americans' involvement in it is. You follow me? Okay, so it can take place overseas. It just needs to involve American history. Does that make sense? So reading about the Holocaust doesn't really work unless you can find some connection to the United States. Does that make sense? Like media coverage of the Holocaust in the United States, which I can tell you was very little. Kind of like what's happening in China with the Uyghurs that are being enslaved there. The American media coverage is minimal. You understand? So that's something you could write about. So there's tons of ideas in here in this video. You guys at home, I'm gonna stop this recording, because YouTube will lock me out when I try and upload my video if I show their video on my video. So I did post a link to that video on the assignment for the Historical Literature Passion Project, okay? So that's a nice short video for you today.